Welcome to the Lean Out Your Business podcast, a show dedicated to helping entrepreneurs accelerate business growth and simplify success. I'm your host, Crista Grasso, and I've been working with businesses for more than 2 decades to help them lean out and optimize what's working while eliminating anything that's not adding value. So if you are ready to get more time back in your day, more profit in your business, and to do business differently, growing and scaling on your terms, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Lean Out Your Business podcast. Today is part 2 of our 2-part series to get you ready for summer. In part 1, we dove into how to make time off non-negotiable this summer so that you can adjust your schedule or take time for vacations or do whatever you really want to do to make the most of the summer season. And in today's episode, what we're going to dive into is how you can feel confident that you will be generating revenue all summer long, even if you have vacations planned, you are enjoying the pool or the beach, and you can come back to your business in the fall knowing that you are both set up for success for the second half of the year, as well as having new clients and revenue consistently coming in all summer long. Because even if you are slowing down this summer, you do not want your business to slow down. And the number one reason why most businesses have revenue dips in the summer is because they did not do the proper planning and preparation. So we are going to make sure that you are fully prepared and that you have those plans in place. So let's dive in to today's episode. All right, so the very first thing that you need to do is set your context. Pillar 1 of the lean out method, you need to know where you're going and why it's important. And so in the context of generating revenue, you need to know how much revenue you actually want to generate this summer. And from there, you're going to need to map out a plan for how you're going to achieve that target. It's really important that you're creating your plan for Q3 right now. I actually recommend that you create your plan for the rest of the year. Now, this is going to be at a very, very high level, much more of a roadmap format, not a detailed plan, but you want to know what those big events are from a marketing or a launch or promotion perspective. And you also want to know the major things that you have planned and your overarching goals through the rest of the year. Because one of the biggest things that keeps people from achieving their goals is not thinking ahead far enough. And what ends up happening is those things that you're going to do in Q3, you realize you're not actually able to start because there were activities that needed to be done in Q2 to set you up to get started. And so the second half of the year tends to go by quickly. It tends to be a bit of a blur. So you want to make sure that you are thinking ahead now to what's coming up for the rest of the year. And oftentimes the things that you do or don't do in summer end up having a really big impact on how things go for the second half of the year, not just on your results, but on how stressful and on how overwhelming things feel versus being able to actually have that balance in your business all year long and not have those peaks where you feel like you have to be working all the time. So you want to get really clear on what your revenue target is going to be for the summer. And then once you have that target, you want to get really clear on what your approach is going to be. And that's going to include 3 different facets. The first is getting clear on what your products or your offers or your services are that you're going to be promoting and focused on selling over the summer. The second then is actually looking at what your plan is going to be from a launch and promotion perspective. And then the third is making sure that you really know your numbers. So let's break those down, starting with your offers. Here's a couple things that you're going to want to consider when you're thinking about what it is that you're going to be selling. And that is, how much of your time is it going to take you to deliver those offers? And does it align with how much you want to work or when you want to work? So it's possible that you shift some of your offers or even change the way that you deliver your offers over the summer if you're going to be working a reduced schedule so that it aligns with it. Because some of your clients may have that same desire to have a reduced schedule, or they may have their own vacations. So whenever I'm looking at what I'm promoting, whenever I'm looking at my offers, I am always considering what does that look like to actually deliver on it and fulfill that offer? And what does it look like both from me and my team's perspective, but also what does it look like from my client's perspective? Now, when I'm doing more private work with people one-on-one, that's really easy. And so a lot of times over summer, that's what I focus on. I'll focus on VIP days, or I will focus on, really diving in with people and doing some deep private coaching or private strategic advisory, because it's easy to get that scheduled around both of our availability. And a lot of times in the summer, because people are working a little bit less, they have more mental space and mental capacity to actually work on some of those bigger things that are really more innovative and working on their business instead of in their business type activities. So when you think about your business, what are the right things to be promoting and delivering over the summer? And how does that align with your customers and what they need and how they're going to be able to get the most value as well? Now, one of the other things that you want to think of is your launch and promotion plan. So how are you going to actually promote those offers? One of the things that we do inside the offer incubator is get really clear on what your conversion event is going to be and how you're going to deliver that. And oftentimes there's a lot of components of that conversion event that are live. Now, if you have something today that's already automated and evergreen, that's great. You're just going to want to make sure that everything is set up and ready to go for summer. But if today you do have a big component of what you do that's live or time bound, you want to look at that and look if there is any opportunity to go in and automate or go in and make what you're doing an evergreen approach instead. You also want to look at this as an opportunity to simplify wherever you can and put those systems in place that are not only going to save you a lot of time and free you up over the summer, but they're also things that you're going to be able to leverage going forward as well. So this is going to give you the time back, but it's also going to help you to ensure that you're generating revenue because you're going to have those consistent, repeatable results through the systems that you're putting in place and through really simplifying what you're doing. So you're cutting out all of the noise internally and externally. So making it easier on your team and also making it easier on your customer when you think about the customer experience and the customer journey. And then the last thing that you want to think about is what are those things that you can do right now so that you're lessening the work that you're going to do later. So this means basically working ahead, right? What are those things that you can put in place? What are the emails that you can write? What are the different activities that you can pre-schedule or prepare now so that they can go automatically or they can go with minimal effort over the summer so it's not going to be so time intensive for you or for your team? And then finally, the third component is really knowing your numbers and understanding your numbers. And here's a few things to consider for that. The first is when you look at your revenue target, how much committed revenue do you already have coming in over the summer? And what's the delta between that and your target? Let's say that over summer, you want to generate $100,000 and you've already got $25,000 of committed revenue from current clients. Well, that would mean that what you're really targeting is $75,000 that you're trying to generate. Really important to know that number because that's going to help you get really clear on what actions that you need to take. What you want to do with that is break that down to say how many new clients do you need to bring in to achieve that target? Right? You already know how much revenue you're generating from existing clients. How many new clients now do you need to be bringing in? Then you want to work backwards. And this is where knowing your numbers becomes really, really important. And knowing your end-to-end sales and marketing system and approach becomes really important as well. So let's use a simple and pretty common example of a funnel that goes from paid ads to a free workshop to a sales call to somebody converting to become a client. So if your funnel is paid ads, free workshop, sales call, convert to client, you want to know what your conversion rates are at each and every one of those steps. So you know how many people that you need to be targeting. So let's say you want 10 new clients and you have a 50% conversion rate on your sales calls. Well, if that's the case, then you're going to need 20 sales calls. And if you know that when you have somebody sign up for a free workshop, about 25% of the people who show up actually book a sales call with you, which that would be a great number, then you know that you're going to need 80 people to actually show up for your workshop. Now, here's where it starts to multiply out, right? So this is 25% of people who show up. Well, how many people who sign up actually show up. So let's say that of all the people who sign up for your workshop, you have about a 25% show up rate. And this includes watching replays and stuff. So about 25% of the people actually follow through and participate in the material and consume the workshop material that you're creating. And so if that's the case, then you're going to need 320 people to actually sign up. So at that point, all of your efforts should be laser focused in on getting those 320 people to sign up. Whether you do that exclusively through paid ads, or maybe when you realize, hey, I only need 320 people to sign up here, maybe that's something you can do through organic marketing efforts or a combination of both. What you don't want to do, whether it's going into summer or any other point in time in your business, is have an arbitrary revenue number like, hey, I want to make $100,000 this summer, but not know your numbers and not have a clear plan for getting there. If you can get really clear on how many new clients you need to generate and then work your numbers to figure out how many people you need to put through your sales and marketing system in order to convert the number of leads that you want, it really truly does simplify everything. And that's where you're going to be able to increase your confidence in actually hitting your revenue targets. Let me walk you through an example with something that we had done in Lean Out Method last summer that worked really well. And maybe there's some parallels with some things that you can do in your own business. So at the time, there was a webinar that I was running every 2 weeks that was selling one of our programs. And although we did have a lot of components automated where we had some of the emails written and automated and some of the nurture sequences in place, there were a lot of components that were live as well because of the live nature of the webinar. And so with the summer coming, we knew that we wanted to drop the live component. And for a long time, we had said, once we really get this nailed, we're going to take this webinar and turn it evergreen. And we used summer as the catalyst to go ahead and make that change. So it took some work up front, and we had done that work right about now at this time last year to get ready for summer. So I recorded the webinar and made it available evergreen. We rewrote and up-leveled all of our email automations. So that way it really made sense and it fit with the evergreen nature of the webinar. And we ended up putting that in place and found that not only did it save us a significant amount of time and just a significant amount of coordination on our part to run that webinar live, but we got the exact same conversion rate doing it evergreen. So there was no reason for us to ever bring it back live. We kept it evergreen after that, and we were able to free up all of that time in the business, not only when we came back into the business in the fall, but still to this day. So we were able to repurpose that time to some other activities. Now, there's other things that we did in our business for our group programs and for our weekly lean coffee, for example, that really needed to be done live. They weren't necessarily things that we could make evergreen. So what we did was we scheduled them at times when we knew that we would be available and that fit when we would be working. And then from there, we did a whole lot of work up front so that I could just show up and lead that workshop or lead that training live. And that was it. Because all of the content was created in advance. All of the emails were created in advance. Everything was done and drafted and ready to go. So that all I had to do was really just do what I do best anyway, which is deliver the content. And again, we were then able to use some of the things that we created. And by simply duplicating them for other things that we did later in the business, it ended up being a really effective system that minimized the amount of time and coordination that went into a lot of the things that we delivered live throughout the rest of the year. So if you now take that and apply it to what you have planned for a launch and promotion perspective for this summer, what does it look like for you? Are there things that you can be selling over the summer that you don't actually kick off and start to deliver until the fall? That ends up sometimes being a really great strategy to have the revenue coming in, but to not really have a huge impact on your time. You just need to make sure that you are available from a customer support perspective. But again, you can pre-schedule and pre-automate and pre-write and prepare so much of that content that it really does make it easy for you to be able to enjoy the summer and then step back into the business in the fall, ready to go and ready to deliver on that offer. Now, maybe if you take that one step further, maybe instead of selling something over the summer to deliver in the fall, maybe you're promoting something over the summer to actually start to sell in the fall. So you're warming up your audience and you're starting to build warm leads so that when you do come back and hit the ground running, you have people who are ready to buy and really interested in what you're doing already instead of starting cold. Then look at what you can get rid of, right? What can you lean out? What do you not need to do? Sometimes something like wanting to reduce your schedule over the summer ends up being a great reason to go in and recognize where you're spending time on things that do not need to be done at all. And so it gives you the opportunity to not just cut them for the summer, but to cut them out of your business entirely so you can get that time and energy back. Start there with the things that can be deleted. And then for the things that are remaining, what can you systematize? What can you simplify? And then ultimately, what can you delegate to free up your time? And of course, looking beyond just the systems that you're developing to look at automations to see what can you automate and what can you put in place now so that things work seamlessly over the summer. So you absolutely can create your ecosystem and conditions for success. It's all about having a clear plan for how you'll generate revenue and who's responsible for what, so that you can have the confidence that that revenue will continue to be coming in all summer long while you are recharging and actually enjoying the summer. And just as we talked about in the first part of this series, the 4 critical elements to making that happen are strategy, planning, systems, and team. So to summarize this all together from a strategy perspective, you want to make sure that you're determining your revenue targets. You want to get really clear on what offers you're going to be focused on, what offers you're going to be promoting, and how and when you're going to be focused on generating revenue over the summer. From a planning perspective, you then want to take that input and really get clear on what your lean strategic plan is. What needs to happen when, who needs to do what. And if you go back to the first part of this series, we dive a little bit deeper into how to make that time off non-negotiable. And you're really going to want to use some of those concepts in the development of your plan so that your plan is capacity based and sets you up for success without overwork or without overwhelm. From a systems perspective, you really want to take the time and carve out the space to get those systems in place. They are critical to you scaling your business. They're critical to you removing yourself as the bottleneck in your business. And the summer is just that amazing catalyst to finally get it done. It's something that you probably know you need to do, whether you already have systems and you know that they need a refresh, or you really need to up-level them as your business has continued to scale, or whether you've been avoiding doing systems and you know that that's what's really going to help you take your business to the next level. Use this time of the year as the motivation to go in and get started and get it done. And a pro tip for you there is get really clear on what tools you're going to use so that you're keeping it really super simple. And then finally, when you think about your team, this is the time to really be building up your team and maybe looking at, do you need to cross-train somebody? Do you need to fill a gap on the team and bring somebody new on? How can you set your team up to successfully deliver on the plan that you've put in place? And how can you delegate things off of your plate and have the confidence that they're going to get done and that they're going to get done really well? Just like with systems, you really can't scale effectively or remove yourself as the bottleneck in your business without a team. So again, use this as the catalyst to make some of those changes or up-level or build out your team. And you're going to get benefits from this, not just for the summer, but also going forward in your business. And my final thought for you on this whole 2-part series is this. If you can figure out how to achieve more by doing less for the summer, why not keep it as the new normal, right? Why ever go back to working harder and working more and having things be more complex? When you actually take the time to put strategy, planning, systems, and team in place, not only are you going to be set up to be able to relax and refresh and enjoy your summer, but you're also going to be set up to actually scale your business in a simple and sustainable way. So although this two-part series was very focused on making time off non-negotiable this summer and continuing to generate revenue while you are off and enjoying the wonderful weather, everything that we've talked about is exactly what you want to be thinking about and looking at doing in your business all the time so that you can scale and you can get time back. I hope you got a ton of value out of this series. If you would like any support getting your business ready for summer, developing those strategic plans, and looking at the systems and team that you really need to not only get ready for summer, but to set your business up to scale sustainably, you can go ahead and put time on my calendar at scalingstrategycall.com, and we can look at how we can best work together. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you again next week. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Lean Out Your Business podcast. I hope you got a lot of value and actionable insights from today's show and would love if you take a moment to leave us a review. If you have any questions on today's episode or on how to lean out your business, join us over in our private Facebook community where every week we do live training and Q&A, and I'd love to have you be part of the conversation. Head to leanoutmethod.com/group to join us. And before you go, be sure to subscribe to the show so you're the first to know when we release a new episode. We'll see you next week.